Welcome to another cargo run, basically. Long time ago I started this series and I did a couple of cargo flights with Lufthansa Cargo and also the German cargo. But I haven't done anything like that for a long time. And now I'm feeling like doing it again, and I would also like to do it in Prepared, because in Prepared I have the PMDG Queen of the Skies 747-400 freighter, which I'm going to use in polar air cargo colors for this flight. We're going to start with the flight preparations. In this first part, basically looking at the weather in Seattle and along the route, and also looking at the flight plan that SimBrief has created for us. Okay, so let's have a look. First of all, let's have a quick check of the weather. We are in Seattle. Temperature is currently 10 degrees. Dew point is 3 degrees centigrade. And the surface winds is 290 with 3 knots. We have good visibility, 10 plus miles, and precipitation is none. The pressure is 1016 for the Europeans and 29,999 for the Americans. And there are no significant weather developments visible right now. So that's Seattle. And currently in Anchorage, the weather is a bit colder. It is winter, after all. We have -3 degrees. Dew point is -6 degrees. And that had to be now. I had to sneeze during my recording. I might have to cut this out, but anyway, that's just life. It is cloudy. We have good visibility. There's no precipitation, and our pressure is 2996. So that's the current situation. And when we look along the way, we can see that we have some, let's say, significant weather situations a bit south of Seattle. But in general, along the flight path, we do have clouds. We may have some slight precipitation. Probably by the time we arrive in Anchorage, we might actually see some precipitation. But all in all, I think it is pretty, yeah, it's pretty straightforward here. Okay, so that's the weather situation. The winds, when we look at this, are partially in our favor. Yeah, they're not too bad. But we're going to check the winds in our briefing anyway. So, this is a Polar 999er. And I've been flying this on the 14th of January 2019. We're flying from Seattle to Anchorage in a Boeing 747-400 freighter. It's the November 487 Sierra Bravo. And so that's from Seattle Tacoma International to Stevens Anchorage International. We are leaving Seattle at 21:30 Zulu. And we're going to arrive in Seattle at 0040 Zulu. Now, local time, I'm not quite sure, but I think we have about 5 hours time difference to the East Coast, and it's probably around 8 or 9 hours to the West Coast, I'm guessing at the moment. So this is a flight that's going to take place during the afternoon. The ground distance is 1,275 nautical miles. Air distance is a little bit less, 1232. The average wind component, we're going to have 191 with 30 miles. So the wind is coming on average from the south, which is is slightly in our favor. It's not perfect, but it's okay. The wind component is positive 0.15, and average fuel flow, we are going to have roughly 10 tons, 9.9 tons per hour. So that's our alternate is Papa Alpha Echo November. I'm actually not sure what airport that is. I need to check this. And I'm hoping that Papa Alpha Echo November has enough runway for us. I'm going to quickly check. And my nose is giving me some trouble here. I'm suffering of a slight cold. So let's see, that's Kenai. That is actually Kenai Municipal. And I'm going to quickly check if Kenai is actually fit to have the big Boeing land here. Let's see. So we have 7,855 feet. I guess that should be sufficient. I think that's enough. I think we should be okay. Yeah. I'm guessing at the moment that SimBrief would not offer us this as an alternative if we wouldn't be able to land on either 2 left or 20 right. But I surely hope that we don't have to divert to Kenai, or we might actually decide to go somewhere with a bit of a larger airport and larger runways. But yeah, so that's the current plan. Fuel-wise, the trip fuel to Anchorage flying time is 2 hours and 50 minutes. And the calculated trip fuel is 28.2 tons. We have a contingency of 15 minutes, which is 2.4 tons, almost 2.5. Then the alternate will take another 4.3 tons. It's about half an hour's flight. And the final reserve is another half an hour. So we come to a minimum takeoff fuel of 39.8 tons. And I haven't actually calculated an extra. I might do this when we are in the aircraft. So block fuel is 40.7 tons. As calculated by SimBrief, I might vamp this up by 1 or 2 tons for good measure later on. Okay, so the alternate, as I say, at the moment is planned to Papa Alpha Echo November, Kenai, and with the current weather, we're expecting a 02 left landing should we actually require to go there. That's our routing. We leave on the runway 34 right currently. It's Bangor 9 departure, then Ari, Foch, Price, Bravo Kilo Alpha, Lair, Juliet Oscar Hotel, and the Jeska 6 arrival in Anchorage for runway 33. That might change along the way, but with the current weather, this is probably going to be the situation. Then comes our timing. So we're going to leave at 21:30 Zulu, which is 13:30 local time. And we're going to be off at 21:50 on blocks, then on 040 Zulu, and in 048 Zulu, which is 1548 local time. Block time is about 3 hours and 18 minutes. And yeah, we shall see how that works out. Well, we do not really have passengers. Now that is a bit of the problem here, 25 passengers on a cargo plane. That's not quite accurate. Cargo is 93.7 tons. So the whole payload is about 96.3 tons. And I'm going to put weights into the aircraft that is pretty much the same, so that we actually end up with a zero fuel weight of 265 tons, 0.8 tons, yeah. So here you can see the maximum. So the aircraft is pretty full with this, because the maximum zero fuel weight for takeoff is 288 tons. Fuel is 40.8 tons. I might actually add another 1 or 2 tons, possibly 1.2 tons to bring this to 42, which would give us a takeoff weight of about 305.6 tons if we put another 1 or 2 on it. So it's something like 307 tons that we're actually leaving. Again, we are fine here on the takeoff. The landing weight will be approximately 277.4 tons. That's after we have used all the trip fuel. And the maximum would be 302.1. So we are in the limits here. No problem. So most critical is 9,700 feet at Bangor. So this is kind of the critical height where we need to watch out for. And yeah, we're leaving Seattle Tacoma via the Bangor 9. And here you can see the routing. We're going to fly through the Vancouver FIR, which is an ATC center. Then comes Anchorage FIR. And they will accompany us until we arrive in Anchorage itself. Here's the wind information for the different heights. Our flight altitude will be flight level 340. And here are the average winds for flight level 350 during climb. And then at the top of climb, so it's about here, we'll have winds from 170. And here are some of the waypoints like Foch, Price, BKA, Lair, at the top of descent and the actual descent. Yeah. The winds are pretty, yeah, well, they're coming from the south. Then they continue coming from the south. This is roughly south. Then they turn slightly more west, southwesterly. Okay, but not much actually. So the wind is pretty steady coming from the same direction. Okay, that's the ICAO flight plan. This is some dispatch briefing we don't have. And here's again the weather. So we have no airmets, we have no SIGMETs, tropical cyclones and stuff like that. There's no volcanic ash in the vicinity. So we're going to leave Seattle with a wind of 290 with 3 knots, 10 nautical miles or more, with a bit of clouds, a few, temperature plus 10 degrees, dew point 3 degrees. So this is actually at the limit where we would normally use anti-ice. That's our pressure is 2999. And yeah, that's actually what we have seen already here in Active Sky. By the way, I'm linking SimBrief and Active Sky. So if you're interested, what you can do is you can go to weather control. You can save a weather file. It would I have saved this now for 2100 UTC. It writes then a snapshot, a weather snapshot file. And what you can then do is you can start the SimBrief downloader. If you start the SimBrief downloader, if you have that, it can actually connect to SimBrief while you're still on the web page. And it will upload your current active sky weather to SimBrief and use it then for the planning. And that's why this here and this here match together. Okay, that's actually quite handy. Because the thing is, I'm doing this video in several installments, and what I want to make sure is that the briefing and the weather and the flight, they all match together. So I actually preserved the weather for the intended flight time here in active sky, and I can reuse it again. And that's why these match up, and they will also match up in the flight, although the flight might happen a day later or so, because it takes some time and I don't have that much time in one go. So that's why I'm using some tricks here, just for you to know. So here are some crew alerts. You can now specify up to 4 alternate airports, complete with proper flight routes. So there has been some changes here with SimBrief. Nice. Then there's an auto cost index. We have actually cost index 2.5 we're going to use. Okay, and there's a flight release unit. Okay, so that's very nice. Let's have a look at the maps. So this is our route. We're starting in Seattle and we're flying northwesterly until Anchorage along the coast. Then this is some significant weather which we don't really have. There may be some rain here in the vicinity. Here's our winds, as you can see, mainly coming from the south. So they're not helping us, but they're also not really slowing us down. So they come from the side, and yeah, it could be worse, let's say. So this is the altitude, flight level 300. This is 340, which is actually our flight altitude, and you can see, so the winds will be from the side most of the time, with a very slight push from behind. But it isn't that helpful, but it's also not too bad. And that's our vertical profile. You can see here in Seattle by Bangor, we are at about flight level 200, and the top of climb is then after Ari will be on flight level 340, where we're going to fly until the top of descent, which is somewhere between Lair and Jeska. And yeah, so by Jeska we have to be in and around flight level 70, I think it is, or in this case it's 7,000. We are in the US with a transition altitude or transition level of 18,000. Yeah, and that's it. That's the briefing. As I say, I'm going to use prepared version 4. It's going to be the queen of the sky. 747. It's this beauty here. And for ATC, I'm going to use ProATC X, for which I have created a flight. So I can show you this. You can see this is our route, okay, with all the waypoints. We're going to use the Boeing 747. This is a bit of a strangey here, but Polar is the call sign of Polar Air Cargo. They actually have Polar, but they've written it wrong. They called it Polar. So I needed to make some changes to the airline definition so that we actually hear Polar and not Papa Alpha Charlie, which wouldn't be that realistic. So we're flying from Seattle, from the cargo center to Stevens Anchorage, also the cargo center, and we leave it to assign us some position on the airport. Departure time is Yeah, this is not quite right. I'm going to change this when we actually start with the flight. And flight level 340 is, yeah. And that's the routing. It will automatically calculate the departure and arrival routes depending on the waypoints here and on the weather. But because the weather is controlled and also ProATC has been configured to use the same weather snapshot that also has been used by SimBrief, and that comes from Active Sky. Okay, so they should all match together, and we should see correct weather information and all that. And yeah, that's it basically. So we have a quick look at the charts. Okay, put this into day mode. So this is Seattle, and let's have a quick check where we need to stand. So the cargo area, there are actually several cargo areas, as you can see. So here's the south ramp. There's a cargo 7 down here, and there's cargo 2, cargo 3, cargo 5, cargo 1. So I'm guessing that we are probably going to be positioned somewhere here around here. B7478 approved routes. Okay, we are not a dash 8. So those visibility routes. Okay. So I'm guessing we will be standing somewhere here, and then we have to go to 3-4 right. Maybe I should be in cargo 7, would be a bit easier, but I think we need to be somewhere here, and that means we need to go all the way down to runway 34 right, which is the longest runway with 11,901 feet or 3,627 meters. Okay, then the departure most likely is going to be the Bangor 9 RNAV departure, which we're going to program then. And you can see here runway 34. We're going to leave to the northerly direction, Wurel, minimum 3,100 feet, then Atomy, Brem, and Bangor. Minimum 10,000 feet at Bangor due to altitude, mountains and stuff like that, because we have a minimum safe altitude of something like 9,700 or well, no, it must be a bit less. But there are some higher places around Bangor here. And then we continue here on the ARI. So it's Bangor 9 ARI, 14,000 feet or more. Okay, so that's that. That's our departure. You can also see again the description. There's always also a textual description. Climb heading 344 to at or above 932 feet. That is. Then direct .v. That's this here. Okay, so here's the runway. We continue to .v, which is basically straight ahead. Then direct .v, then on track 342 to cross Wurel at or above 3,100. That's this here. Then on depicted route to Bangor, cross Bangor at or above 10,000. From Bangor on transition, maintain assign altitude. That means whatever altitude we have been assigned by ATC, we keep this when we are on our way to ARI. Okay. There are some obstacles that they describe here. Okay. Airport elevation is 432 feet, transition altitude 18,000, and Seattle departure is 120.4. So that's that. And Anchorage on the other side. Let me quickly check. Have I still got that briefing? Yes, I do. because it is giving us the Jeska 6 arrival. So let's have a look at that. That's the Jeska 6 arrival. You can see Anchorage is surrounded by mountains, so we need to be careful of that, up to 14,000 feet. You see this color scale here, okay? So the darkest, somewhere here, are 13,176 feet. So there's quite a bit of mountains around, and it appears that we are coming so that we have to fly over some of these mountains. The MSA, the minimum safe altitude, in this sector here, and that's where we're coming from, is 8,900. So you can imagine that we need to be quite high in this area here. You can see 11,000, for example, or when we come from here, from Middleton. So, yep. I think we are coming from Juliet Oscar Hotel, if I remember correctly. So that's the Jeska 6, JOH. We're coming in here, I think, and we fly all the way to the VOR, towards the VOR, which is at the airport. Okay. From over Jeska on TED radial 101 to TED. TED is, by the way, is the VOR here. It's the Anchorage VOR, Tango Echo Delta, 113.15. Expect radar vectors to final approach course after Jeska. Well, we shall see. I'm not sure what ProATC is going to do here. But yeah, normally you get vectors for the approach. The approach itself is most likely, what do we say? Let me see in the briefing again. It's runway 33. So I'm going to look for runway 33, which is an RNAV approach. It's not an ILS. It's actually a area navigation only. So again, MSA 8,900. I need to be aware of that. That means we need to first make sure that we have cleared the mountains. And what you can see is some funny routing, but that is most likely to lose altitude, I would think. That's why you have to fly this circle here, because otherwise you would be too high coming here to clear the mountains. So it's an RNAV approach, so we don't have a frequency here. It's not an ILS approach for runway 33. Final approach course is 329. The minimum altitude is 1200, and decision altitude is 463 barometric, or decision height is 342. Airport elevation is 151. And in case of missed approach, we climb to 4,000 feet on the RNAV missed approach route, which is basically continue to MERS and then towards Big Lake VOR, and there go into a hold and wait for ATC instructions. Transition level in the US, as usual, flight level 180 or transition altitude 18,000. Okay. So, radar required for procedure entry from the en route environment. Okay. And as you can see, we come from Hopper here. And Hopper at 8,000, Tavu, Sulni, and we need to descend. And we need to make sure that when we come around of this merry-go-round here, that we end up at 2,000 feet. That would be here, Herky, 2,200 feet. And then we go to this final approach fix. What's that? FAP, final approach fix, I think, yeah. Foxon, we need to be at 1,200. Then it's a normal 3 degrees glide slope until we reach our decision height or decision altitude. And yeah, and we'll continue. So, yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's the briefing. Give us an idea and have a quick look at the airport. So we're coming in runway 33. So I'm guessing that with the weight, that we have. We are most likely going to, not sure if we can make a Romeo, or what's that here, uniform or Romeo, uniform. I guess that's uniform here, yeah. We might be able to make uniform. Latest then by Tango we should be able to be off. And then we're looking for the, where's the cargo? Where's the cargo areas here? This is not exactly a helpful map. Let's see, where is the, so, yeah. So there's Alaska cargo port, taxi lane, north terminal, south terminal. South Air Park, north-south taxiways, north Air Park, Alaska cargo port, taxi lane. Yeah, not exactly very clear. So this is the terminal, this is the aircraft, low visibility, approved taxi. That's A380, B74F, that's for the big birds. That's the taxi routes for the big birds, yeah. FedEx ramp. Okay. So I guess cargo should be in this area, I would think. UPS ramp. Yeah, so I'm not sure who we're doing this for. Let's assume we're doing it for FedEx or for UPS. So we're going to taxi here to the cargo areas. Okay, that's it. I don't think I can give you much more here as a briefing. So that is to give you an idea of what the actual flight will be covering. I'm not going to record the complete flight, so at least not in the video. I'm going to take the highlights and put them together, and you're going to see all the important bits of the flight, and we leave out the kind of boring en route parts where there is not much happening. Okay, that's it until the next part.